Baby.
Hi everybody, how y'all doing?
Hi.
I'm
Hello.
I'm Jackie. That's
Hey,
Chrissy,
Jackie.
listen Queen. Hello.
Hey, howdy, Crystal.
And that's
Hey,
Mama Pun
Jason.
up there.
Yes, ma'am.
How is everybody doing today? Oh look, a lot of people.
I can't. I can't with this man. Hi, James.
Keep him hidden. Keep him hidden.
Telling you.
So today we're talking about two serial killers, right?
That's right. Man
Jackie,
versus woman,
yeah,
right?
man versus which one's evil? The most evil. I think
Oh,
women
that's
are.
that's a toss up. I think men are more precise, but I think women are more methodical.
Method- okay, methodical. You mean more what?
When I say methodical, I mean like they're very organized and planned. And they
Yeah.
usually have, I'm not going to say that a man doesn't, but they usually have a strong motive behind why they're doing what they're doing. And it's step by step laid out.
What
Yeah, I
what
kind
would
of agree
be
with that because women can be more emotional killers from just emotional. Men can just be just because. Not really
Right.
a reason behind it per se, but just because they want to. But, it not always, women can be that way too, but most of the time it's, emotionally fed.
Exactly,
emphasis?
Jennifer.
Yep.
Exactly.
Yep, that's what I was just fixing to say. Yep.
And men don't. They don't have it planned out. They go maybe for the thrill of it.
I mean, I, yes and no. I guess it really depends on the killer, but I think men are more amped to kill on impulse. Um, but I don't know. I don't know. I
Well, I
need
mean,
to
you
be a
do have your
profiler.
your thriller
Yeah, we
killers, I
do.
guess is what they're called, where they do it for the thrill, for the almost the cat and
Excitement.
mouse game with, the
Yeah.
cops and also with their victim. Men are more prone to stalk their victims, watch them, kind of get their daily routine down
Hmm.
and then do what they're going to do, whereas women sometimes it is just out of the blue and it's done. It's not really, like I said, it's more of an impulse
Impulse for what?
to do the killing. Unlike men, like we were saying, they're more methodical. They'll almost hunt their prey because that's what they see the victim as is prey. So
Hmm.
they'll, like I said, they'll stalk them, they'll stalk their family, and I'm not saying this is for every serial killer, but, a big majority, that's what they do is they pick out their victim, they watch them, they're very, not so impulsive like Jennifer was saying, but they are very meticulous as far as they can watch them for a week, they can watch them for a month, and then it's when they decide to take them. Whereas with women, a lot of them, even though some of them are planned, it could be a spur of the moment more than what a man. So that's my opinion. I guess we lost Chrissy. Her internet, by the way, people, is not the greatest where she's at right now. So she may come in and out a few times.
Would women like know their victims more than what men would?
I think, well, just from the little bit of research that I've done with some, like the women serial killers that we're planning
Mhm.
on doing and stuff, they're usually close to the woman. Usually a husband, they're caretakers, they're maids. even family members. It doesn't seem like the women that I've been able to research, of course, I haven't been able to go through all of them, there's so many of them.
Yes.
It seems like they are closer. Whereas the men, they can pick out, it seems like a random stranger. And just, I guess, I don't know if they're just fascinated with that person or more sexually attracted to that person, but it can be a complete stranger, and that's who they will choose. And also, it seems like with the men serial killers, they will actually be more gruesome as far as the things that they do. Not saying that there's not women that do that, but majority is men are more, for lack of a better word, bloody in what they do. Women, like I said previously, they like to do more of a poison type thing, maybe hitting somebody on the head, stabbing through the heart, something like that, to where it's not as gruesome. Whereas men, chop up bodies, cannibalism, things like that. However, the particular woman that we're going to talk about tonight, she was kind of more of the mannish type thing because she bathed in the blood supposedly of her victims. You don't
And what's her
hear
name?
a lot about women that actually kind of do that.
Elizabeth.
Elizabeth. Oh, what is her? Let me see what her last name is. Hold on. It is
Bathory?
Elizabeth Bathory.
Bathory?
Bathory.
Yeah.
Sorry, my grandbaby's in here, so I can get her out.
Hmm.
What, Jackie?
No, no, I'm just looking at this.
Well, the one thing that I find the most interesting about Jack the Ripper is the fact that, that's London's biggest fail when it comes to solving a crime. I mean, he definitely was a serial killer, and they never really locked down who it was, although there's theories as to who they think it was, but no one was ever arrested and convicted of those crimes. And he was whoever it
Right.
was absolutely skilled with a knife. So it was either a doctor or a butcher, or, I mean, even maybe somebody that is really good at hunting, that knows how to dress their animals, because if you know how to do that, you know how to separate it, the tendons and ligaments and the bone, you know how to do all that. So that's why I find
Yeah,
Jack
I
the Ripper
mean,
so
you
interesting.
definitely look in doctor, butcher, what is it? The medical students, or
Mhm.
even, I guess, I don't know what they were called back then, but like the ones that do the autopsies and stuff, because they would actually, kind of pick
Like a
apart,
coroner,
stuff.
current day coroner.
But yeah, 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 exactly.
Can
But
you read that? I'm on my phone.
well,
Can you read
Jennifer
that?
Lee was asking.
What did she say?
Yeah.
Go ahead,
Jennifer.
Jackie.
Oh, wait a minute.
Howard, listen, that's nothing new, sir.
Jennifer Lee said, "What's her story? I never heard of her." So let's say a little bit about Elizabeth, what she did.
Well, basically, she was um, a noble in Hungary, and this was back in like 1560, I believe. Um, she would actually supposedly, I'm going to say supposedly, and there's a reason why I'm going to say supposedly, had killed like 600 females, because she would bathe in the blood of those females to try to keep her youthful looks, even though they never really could substantiate that story. She did have some women that she had in her, I guess it was basement dungeon type thing, that she kept chained, that was chained up and had looked like they had been tortured. They did find some bodies. They had like over 300 people come to what was her supposed trial and say that they had not witnessed but had seen people that had been tortured by her and actually had gotten away, so on and so forth. But the surprising part, even though she was accused of all this stuff, she was just on house arrest until she died. She died at like 58. They didn't kill her. However, supposedly her accomplices, there was about three of them, three female accomplices. I guess maybe they would lure the other unsuspecting people in or kind of do her bidding for the maids or whatever. And they did put them to death. But with her, they just put her on house arrest in her castle. And she just kind of roamed around the castle and until she fell ill one day, went to bed, and she was done. So, but
Wow.
it's kind of fascinating too that supposedly her family name um, was actually supposedly kin to Vlad the Impaler. So, and we all know that supposedly he was Dracula. Um, yeah.
Wow.
That's interesting.
So, and
Yeah, really.
that could be where like the bathing in the blood and stuff came from. If that family name is actually linked, if he was a supposedly vampire and
Right.
kind of did that, um, there you go. That could be a fathomable thing for even though they couldn't ever prove that. I could see where that could possibly be.
Yeah. Yeah. So somebody had said in the comments, have we heard of Jane the Ripper? No, I have not. So I'm kind of curious. I think it was Eric that said that. And then Gabe said they also wondered if H.H. Holmes was also Jack the Ripper. Exactly. Exactly. I mean, I think they had, what was it? Let me see. Aaron Kaminsky, Thomas Cutbush, Montague, John Druitt, um, Prince Albert Edward Victor, and Lewis Carroll. So that was like their first list of who they suspected was the
Yeah.
Jack the Ripper.
And you never caught him, right?
No,
He's
no.
It's still a surprise to who he is.
Exactly. Now, and most people that I talk to or that I kind of discuss this topic lean toward H.H. Holmes as being the one who did it. Of course, you would think that Scotland Yard would have honed in on that, but I mean, you never know. I mean, back then you didn't have DNA and things like that, so it wasn't like they could pull DNA to prove that he did it. You know what I'm saying? And
Yes.
if you're good at what you're doing, even if you do take bodies back to, your home or whatever, you can clean the mess up because they didn't have where they could illuminate, the evidence in your home to show where blood was. He did not bathe in blood.
Right. Well, see, I think too, HH. Yeah, I'm gonna talk about that comment also. But the thing about H.H. Holmes, I believe, now correct me if I'm wrong, he went between America and England around the time that Jack the Ripper
Yes.
was around. So, I mean, the possibility of him actually being in England when that was happening is fairly great because he
Yeah.
had the ability to go back and forth between the two. But as far as Gabriel, I'm not saying that Vlad the Impaler did I'm not saying that he bathed in the blood of his victims. I'm just saying that with him being supposedly vampire, which that means dealing with blood, would make sense for her to take that step as in bathing in the blood of her victims to keep her young. That's where my connection was coming from.
Because historically, that they would have
I
done
haven't
that,
heard
wouldn't
the
they
one
have?
as far as bathing in the blood.
Right, for vampires.
I would think so. I mean, it would be more like a ritual type thing. Um,
Right.
I mean, we weren't there. We don't know. I mean, like I said, that's
Sure.
why I said she supposedly bathed in the blood because it was never proven. But that is the story that had been handed down from generations through generations. So, you know, but I just find
Was
it,
it
it's an interesting topic. I mean, there's.
Eric said it was a theory that Jack the Ripper
Go
was
ahead,
a
Jackie.
female. It said it was a theory that Jack the Ripper might have been a female. You think that was true?
I haven't heard that. That's something new.
That's what Eric Harrison said. It was a theory that Jack the Ripper might have been a female.
I mean, I hadn't heard the theory neither, Crystal, and I mean, not that I'm saying that it isn't possible because, of course, they never caught the killer, so anything is possible. However, I would lean more toward a man being the killer for Jack the Ripper and the killers that were tied to him. And only because of the, I don't want to say brutality, but for lack of better terms, brutality. When a woman goes and kills, it's usually quick, fast, done. It's not usually graphic and certainly not cutting up the bodies. I don't know. I guess we should have done. I didn't find, or I haven't looked into any other females who was as methodical as Jack the Ripper when it came to what he did to the bodies. Did you guys?
Mm-hmm.
A woman? That it was a woman?
I'm like
No.
you. I can't really think that it would be a woman. Um, if, and I'm saying big if it would have been a woman, it would have had to been a masculine woman just to have the sheer power to take control of the females and do what was done. Could have been mistaken as a man. But I would think she would have had to been more of a masculine build, maybe a masculine work, possibly for her to have that. I mean, like I said, it's just a big if. I'm not thinking it would have been female, but we weren't there. Like I said, we don't know. I mean, and we may never know.
No.
Exactly. Exactly. I'm looking. I had a. So, just so everybody knows, somebody, I forget who it was, but somebody said something about my voice sounding awful. I'm on my phone. I'm not on the computer. The computer is actually in front of me, but I'm on location because I have an investigation tomorrow, and the Wi-Fi isn't working very well at all at the hotel, so I was unable to stay on StreamYard on the laptop. So I didn't want to miss this with the girls, so here we are. I'm on the cell phone, and if I keep coming in and out, that's why, because it's even cell phone service in this area is crazy. So, but I find the topic fascinating, and so of course I didn't want to miss it and miss out on being here on Hey Boo with the girls.
Yes.
We enjoy these fun topics.
Oh,
But I had a
right.
letter, and this is, I was trying to find it, but so I had downloaded a letter that Jack the Ripper had written the press about being Jack the Ripper. And I was trying to see if I could find it, but it's just the internet's so slow that I'm not even seeing my downloads. But I mean, the theory was that it wasn't Jack the Ripper that wrote it. It was a copycat. It wasn't him. It was just somebody wanting attention. But I mean, who's to say? They didn't catch the killer,
Mhm.
so who's to say it couldn't have been him? You know what I mean?
Right. And yes, Joshua, we can see your name.
Hatred for women, exactly. Yeah. Well, and his were mostly prostitutes, correct?
Correct.
For Jack the Ripper. I don't
Yep.
think there wasn't any that wasn't a prostitute, right?
Nope. I don't think so. They were all
So
prostitutes.
one of two things. I mean, either he had a serious dislike or hatred toward prostitutes, or maybe a family member or someone affected his life or a loved one's life negatively, and that's why he chose prostitutes only.
Yeah.
That would have been a large
Maybe he was
woman.
a product from from his mom being a prostitute. I mean,
Right. I mean,
know.
that's very possible. Very possible. Or maybe his father had, had relations with a prostitute and that ruined his parents' marriage. I mean, I'm sure there's a tie somewhere.
Correct.
You don't just randomly pick somebody and, well, I mean, I suppose you could, but usually there's reason behind it.
I mean, the only reason that I could see prostitutes just because they would be out late at night, they would be alone. I mean, if you think about it, they would be easy prey per se. Um, that would be the
Yeah.
only other reason, unless it was just a hatred for women or, the product of the prostitution or the marriage or, that. I mean, that would be the only other thing I could see that a prostitute would be more easy prey.
Yeah. And that makes sense.
Yeah, exactly. High risk victims.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. But that begs the question.
Mhm.
So, I mean, I know this was over 100 years ago, but so do we not think that there were women other than prostitutes that would have been out late? I mean, would women have worked at the opera houses or maid services, or you know what I'm saying? I mean, I just wonder if other women were out that late in that era.
I would think so.
I don't think they would have been out as late. If they were, maybe their husbands would meet them to escort them home. Maybe they lived 2 blocks from where they worked. We are talking about a totally different era. So, I mean, and you have to figure on the area that he actually took his victims to. It would have been in the lower sections of London. It would have been in the lower, class probably area. Um, it's just a lot of factors. But even nowadays, though, if you look at, some of the not recent serial killers, but, there was prostitutes that have been killed too. It's just an easy thing. And who's to say he didn't proposition those women, and that's why he had the ease of the victim. He had already, hey, let's go take care of some business. She would have went with him willingly, until
Sure.
you know. So I mean, that would have made it much easier to be able to kill them, in my
Yeah,
opinion.
I agree with that. I completely agree with that. They wouldn't have been as
And that,
easily accessible.
and
I
yeah.
was reading that. Sorry,
Well, even with
I can't see.
with Elizabeth, think about how would she be able to get her hands on so many people too, because they would have been servants to her. It would have been kind of a privilege in a way to be selected as a servant. So, I mean, it made her victims kind of readily available also.
So they both picked easy targets, or targets,
Yes.
not just easy targets, but targets that most people wouldn't miss or report them missing.
Right. Or maybe
Exactly,
wouldn't miss,
exactly.
right? Yeah. Yeah. That's what Gabriel said.
Yeah,
He
that
sought
they
out
wouldn't.
victims that would have less people
Yeah,
that would miss them.
Wow. So both of them played it smart when it came to who they chose and the potential of getting caught based on how I don't want to say important because every life is important, but how other people would react if they didn't come home. There's been discovery
Right. And
by some
probably, I
weird-
mean, think of like mislabeled as
Mhm.
sex workers. And that's a possibility. I mean, they could have been,
Sure.
like Chrissy was saying, they may have been, doing plays and stuff, and they were in a costume that was more revealing than what you would have normally wore out in public in those days. Could have been. I mean,
Yep, true.
yeah.
And
'Cause they
that's sad.
probably more than likely would have been single women. Yeah. It's like, I guess, what they used to call throwaways, single women that didn't have anything else to fall back on, runaways from bad family, just, all kinds of, and people wouldn't have thought about looking for them.
So Beth, if that's the theory, because I hadn't heard that theory, but if that's the theory, then if the girls weren't prostitutes or in this sex industry at all, so what did they do? Why were they out that late? And why do you think that he chose them? Homeless.
Home.
I mean,
That's a possibility.
it is. I mean, that's sad. Wow. I didn't read that theory. I'm gonna have to dig more into that.
I haven't either. I've never read that one.
Green
Yeah,
River.
the Green River Killer.
Yeah.
That's been
Wait, he did the
recent,
same thing as
recently,
what? He did the same thing
the
as
prostitutes, I believe.
What? Oh, he did the prostitutes.
He would leave them by a body of water, typically, though.
Wow.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. In fact, I think it was here in Ohio, wasn't it?
I believe so.
And here I'm in Ohio right now. I think it was Ohio. It's extremely sad. It's very sad.
Washington. But
I think you muted
Raymond
Crystal.
said it was in Washington. Who was in Ohio? There was one in Ohio, though, wasn't there?
Well, the guy who held that girl captive for like 15 years and fathered a child with her, and she escaped through the front door.
Yeah.
That was recent, and that was here in Ohio.
Yep.
And she wasn't the only victim that he had kidnapped and kept and used as a sex slave. But he didn't kill the girls. He didn't kill them, but he did take him captive and left him chained to beds and all kinds of stuff.
Okay, Raymond said it was Jeffrey Dahmer that was in Ohio.
Dahmer was in Ohio? What?
Now I'm gonna have to look that up. Now I'm wondering.
I don't. He was from Ohio, but he didn't. He wasn't here when he did the killings. He was in. Wasn't he further north? Or am I overthinking that?
Well, let's see. Well, there was a Dr. No that was a serial killer. Let's see.
Dahmer was Wisconsin. So Facebook user Wisconsin, meaning he killed in Milwaukee. Okay. Because I thought that it was in Ohio, but so he was born here and raised here. Can you imagine being the parent of someone who is a convicted serial killer? Can you imagine how traumatic that would be as a parent? Because you're going to humanize your child. You know,
Mm-hmm. That's a
you,
given. That's
I mean, and as a parent, you know, no matter what, you still love your child. So I can't imagine what the parents went through, you know, with having a child that committed these horrendous acts. Yes, Ohio for Dahmer. Okay, so what else was okay. His father forgave him. Who, Dahmer? I mean, you about would have to. And I mean, anybody who has any type of faith knows that, you know, no sin is greater than the other. And, you know, we're not to judge one another. So
I know. Imagine being a child of
mhm.
a serial killer. Wow. Yeah.
actually, well,
But
so
that's
not a
kind
serial killer, but
of the same thing, though. I mean, you're going to love your parents. I mean, to an
Yes.
extent until you're older, and possibly then, find out. And I don't know. That's kind of more of an iffy situation. Um, it's going to be the same thing to me, though. I mean, as a parent, I'm still going to love my kid no matter what they do. Do I have to necessarily like what they've done? No, I don't have to. But it's a horrible situation to be put in. That's for sure.
well, I mean, he was caught red-handed. I mean, that was a pretty cut and dry case for Ted Bundy.
Yeah.
There was really no question that he
Mm,
was the killer. I mean, now it's just like John Wayne Gacy. You know, he was the first serial killer that he was sentenced to death and it was televised. In fact, after that was televised, I don't think they
mhm.
televised any more death sentences because he was given the lethal injection, I think. But I mean, he had all those bodies buried in his crawl space. And yeah, I mean,
Mhm.
so you never know who's living next door. I mean, he was a prominent member of the community. You know, he owned a construction company. He played a clown for kids' birthday parties on the weekends.
Mhm.
So, I mean, you have intelligent people who live everyday lives on one side of the fence, but on the flip side of the fence, they're also a serial killer. So, and so everybody in the audience, I kind of want to look at, so do you think that it's personality disorder? Do you think it's split personality? Do you think it's multiple personality? Do you think they're just a psychopath? Do you think they're psychotic? Bundy was actually set to move into politics. Really?
Well,
I think I heard that one
it's
too.
like BTK. We had talked to him a little bit about him. He was a prominent member in his church. I believe he was a deacon.
He
I believe.
was. Yeah, and
He
that's how he was
worked.
caught.
He worked for the city. I believe.
He used church
Yeah,
stationery to write the letter. That's
computers.
what made
Yeah,
him get caught.
and computers. Yeah, yeah.
Is Stephen
So
said
I mean,
Indiana and
but
Ohio
I
are
think it
known for
depends
their
on.
killers. It's true.
I think he's just saying that because I'm
And,
from Indiana and I'm in Ohio right now. But
no,
I could be wrong.
it's like everything I read has Indiana or Illinois. I know that's like Chicago, right? Illinois,
That John Wayne Gacy was from Chicago, and
right?
that's
But
Illinois.
there were a lot from Indiana. It's like, damn, did Chrissy know this? I'll be reading them and be like, damn, did Chrissy look at the one
No,
we did last week. That was
that's
in
what I'm
Indiana.
saying. Me and Jason are going to have to go out to that farm because I didn't know. I mean, that's a horrible thing to claim your fame to.
I'm not saying really Ohio, but I'm saying, yeah, I couldn't believe the amount of killers I read that were from Indiana. So what's wrong up there in Indiana?
Listen, I don't know. Well, see, people in Louisiana just don't get caught because they can feed them to the gators
That's
and the
right.
hogs. I'm just saying.
Uh,
What's Gabe saying yes about?
well, apparently hogs aren't too reliable. Our friend from last episode, she got caught. So
Well, that's true. That's true. All of the above. So
Gators
you
are more reliable.
think go to the swamp bayou. Edmund Kemper had to give exclusive details of his murders to convince the police that he did it. I guess I don't know who that is. Who was Kemper? Do you guys know?
That one doesn't sound. That one doesn't sound familiar to me.
When I lived in Clearwater Beach for 2 years, we had a serial killer. It was terrifying, but he finally was caught. Interesting. I wonder if that's Josh. I think he keeps flipping from Facebook user to himself for some reason.
I mean, yeah, that's kind of a subject to bring up too. What if you were in that area, like where they were hunting? You know, how would you feel? I mean, that would be crazy. Steven, she's
I'm
gonna
gonna
kill your thought.
Yes, sir. This is a nice show. I can't be ugly, but I'm gonna need you to listen and be nice. The co-ed killer in California. Is that the one who that's not the Facebook killer. Who was that? Remember the guy who used Facebook dating site to find girls, find victims? He was engaged. I think he was a med student. And I think his fiance was a med student as well.
I remember hearing about that one. Yeah.
Yeah. Like it changed how social media was done, and they were supposed to put safeguards in and things. I have a family member suspected of killing 2 women. One has been missing over 30 years. It's a weird feeling knowing you had Thanksgiving with them. Yeah.
Ooh,
So,
yeah.
do tell, Jennifer. Do you think they did it? Imagine being Richard Kolinsky. Children. I mean, he wasn't technically a serial killer. He was a hitman for the mob, but he killed lots of folks, and to him it was just a job and could completely separate himself from his job. And when he got home, he was just a father and husband and had no indicators what he was doing. Well, I mean, so let's talk about that a little bit, Eric. That's a good point. So you got somebody who's a hitman who kills people for a living, and it's not, military based, so it's not by order of being at war or whatever. So why aren't they classified as a serial killer? Because I think the classification is what? Any more than three murders and you could be deemed a serial killer? So why wouldn't a hitman be considered that? Is it because he's paid?
That's what I was just fixing to say, because that would be murder for hire rather than serial killer. Even though it actually should be classified as both. I mean, murder for hire as a serial killer. I mean, that's, it should be classified as both.
I know he did, yes. He died last year before it could be proven. I'm on the hunt for the missing women. Wow. That is insane, Jennifer. That's got to be tough.
Mm.
Wow.
Well, one thing about the previous comment too, I wonder if his wife knew what he did for a living, and how could she be okay with that?
You mean the hitman?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, so I guess if you think about it and you think about the mob in general, so it was a family, right? They protected their own. They had their own clique, if you will. And there was a code that they all stood by. And within that code, while the women technically knew what was going on, they said nothing because that was part of the code. That was the expectation. You're in this family. This is how we do things. This is how it's going to go. So I would say if a woman wanted out of that type of life, she probably wouldn't have stayed in and married somebody within the mafia organization, would be my guess. Because it would be
I just,
acceptable. It
wondered.
would be the norm, right?
Yeah, I mean that's true. I just wondered how it made her feel, like if she had that inner turmoil of my husband does this, but is he going to come after me if I leave, type thing. I wonder if she ever thought about leaving and just couldn't because she was afraid she would be next because they would be afraid that they would squill. I mean, I'm just trying to put myself in her shoes. I can see why she stayed. I'm just saying, I wonder just if she ever did have that, thought run through her head. It's just something to, kind of just think about.
I'm sure, but let's think about the mafia in general. I mean, wouldn't you say that most of them were technically, maybe not classified as hitman, but most of them carried firearms and would protect their family, their money, their pride, their integrity, whatever. They would protect it at all costs, meaning kill somebody that came up against them. So being in that and living in that environment from jump, that would be the norm. To them, it probably wouldn't be, I hate to say it, but it would almost be acceptable behavior because it's all that they know. Does that make sense? Not that it's okay, and not that I'm saying I'm justifying it. I'm just saying if you live in that culture, you live in that environment, you're going to be more accepting of it and less questioning, I guess. Throw us in that environment, one of us three, and we're going to be like, oh, no, but hell no. I got to go. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Jackie would be on the phone with us saying, oh, my God, girls, you're not going to believe this. I got to go. But I don't know.
Kind of brings you back to like the serial killer too, though, because they were able, most of them were able to almost have the business life as the hitman for the mob. That is their serial killer, and then their home life. So really, they should be classified as a hitman / serial killer, because it's the same. You did what you did, and then you have your home where you had your wife, your kids, your normal everyday go to church, go out to eat type thing, and then have the other discreet life, so to say, over here. So it's the same basic principle.
It was the norm. It was the norm for them. So Eric said he told one story of he went and killed a dude on December 24th early in the day, then went home, cleaned up, put toys together, and got mad because he couldn't put the kids' toy together. Listen, I'll be the first to admit, I learned a long time ago, Eric, that if I can buy it pre-put together, I will buy the display model any day of the week and twice on Sunday, because I hate putting that crap together Christmas Eve. It's a nightmare, and it never goes together like it's supposed to, and you either have too many parts or not enough, or the screw doesn't fit even though they says it's supposed to. That's all I got. That's all I got.
That's funny. That's funny.
I'm just saying. Yes, many serial killers held jobs, were upstanding members of the community, but deeply evil on their free time.
Yes.
I agree with that. I agree with that. But how do they separate it? Is it because they have split personality? Is it because they're just psychotic? Is it because they just have multiple personalities? Why? How can they separate it? How? Let's dive into the mind of a serial killer. You are a prominent member of society. Let's say you're a doctor. You make plenty of money. You want for nothing when it comes to needing things. Why would you want to kill another human being? What is that drive behind that? And how can you separate one day as a doctor saving lives and the next day taking a life? Hi, Enoch.
I don't know. That'd be hard to to do a job and then at night kill somebody and then go back and, well, like you said, like operate on somebody and save them, but at night kill somebody.
Right.
I wouldn't know how to do that.
Right. Exactly. How do they separate it?
Yeah.
That'd be hard. That
Where you
has to be
been?
hard.
So I'm saying, I think we're trying to get into a mind.
Rehearsed walking down the Heron Park.
I think we're trying to get into a mind.
It's something about the necrophonics. That's going to be all right.
Sorry, Jason just walked in the room. Sorry, ladies.
It's okay.
You're fine. No, I was just saying. I think we're trying to get into a mind that our mind cannot comprehend how a serial killer's mind works, because is it a little bit of everything? Is it a little bit of multiple personalities? Is it an impulse, an issue that, I mean, everybody, okay, let's be honest, everybody has thought about somebody they would like to just remove from the face of the earth. Let's just put it that way. But you do not act on those impulses.
Well, that's where self-control and restraint come into play.
Exactly. I think it's an issue of all of it. Mental illness, multiple personalities, psychotic, impulse control. I mean, just a little bit of everything.
Demonic possession. Listen, I'm not going to say that that's not possible, but here's the thing. If somebody is truly possessed, they're not going to know what they're doing. And they're not going to have memory or recall of what they've done while possessed. So the premise that demonic possession is the reason behind a serial killer, I have a hard time grasping that. I mean, like I said, not that it's not possible, but pretty rare. And let's just throw it out there. Demonic possession, period, is rare.
Yeah.
It's just one of those things that, and like the stress, like he's saying here, definitely. I mean, stress can make you do things that you would normally not do. For sure.
Well, I mean, I know that I've been pretty stressed in times in my life, but I've never killed anybody or became a serial killer because of it. But, I mean, stress does wear down the mind.
There's always tomorrow. Chrissy.
What?
That's true. There are typically
you haven't killed anybody yet.
Are you saying that I might kill somebody tomorrow? Is that what you're saying? Listen, I would not fare well in prison. I promise you. I would not do well in prison. I am claustrophobic. No. and I like food. So it's not a good idea.
Right.
There are typically early telltale signs: hurting animals, setting fires, bedwetting at a late age. I think the bedwetting at a late age is signs of abuse, not necessarily serial killer.
Yeah.
Um, hell, there's always tonight. Beth,
Beth.
you're supposed to be my sister. You're not supposed to be encouraging me to kill somebody. Listen, girls, I can't with y'all. Lord. So working on Haunted House in October. Should have put that in the comment. Gotcha. Listen, I volunteered for a haunted house last year and worked it a few times, and that was very stressful. Let me tell you, I almost got hit several times, and you know, I think it's kind of crazy because they're told when they go in, you cannot touch the people who are inside the haunt. And they'll be the first to try to swing at you or reach at you or grab you. And it's like, oh my Lord, people, stop it. Listen,
Yeah.
there's always tomorrow, Chrissy Baggett at a prison. Just saying. Are you saying I'm going to kill somebody tomorrow? No. Just saying I got your back. I'm going to need y'all to stop it.
We'll tunnel you
Hi.
out, Chrissy. We'll get you out.
Yeah, you better come get me out and bring me some food and some real clothes and Jason, because I can't live without those things.
Right.
A lot of them have a
You know, and
history of
that's
abuse.
right there. That's something too that I'm kind of torn on that because there are a lot of people that go through abusive raisings, upbringings, marriages, all different kinds of stuff. And they don't turn into serial killers. I think it has a lot to do with how you handle your situations, just like anybody else.
Yeah.
I think it has to do. I'm not saying that some of that's not a contributing factor in being a serial killer. However, it's got to be, multiple personalities, schizophrenia, like I said, just many, many other factors. It's not, I don't believe, always just one. I believe it is definitely more.
Because there are thousands upon thousands of people that are abused and or neglected as children that do not become serial killers. Sometimes it happens, but that could be chalked up to not effectively reading someone's body language quickly. I have been hit before. You get the fight or flight or freeze and respond. Well, okay. So the problem was the place that they had me in the haunt. So I was basically like inside this little hut thing, and I had to swing the door open, and then I was out on the front porch. Well, which the front porch was still inside the haunt. But so they rounded the corner. I swung the door open, and I was on this porch, and it was a jump scare, of course, and I happened to be in the right position, and they would either grab me or swing at me. So I got good though. And when I would jump out, I would kind of go low, which I'm short anyhow. So as long as I went kind of low below like where the porch fence trellis thing was, I was good. I did make like 5 people pee themselves. It was awesome. It was awesome.
Great. That's
Ain't nothing
great.
better than a grown man peeing his pants in front of his girlfriend. It's funny.
That's hilarious. That's hilarious. Facebook user says it can be, but I was severely abused as a child and grew into a loving animal rescuer. So like I said, I just don't think it's one factor. It's multiple factors.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, and it could be genetics. It could be environmental. It could be a lot of things that create a serial killer.
Yep, that's true. Some people break.
Yeah. Sometimes life's too hard.
Most of it, yeah. I mean, thank goodness that there's not as many serial killers as it could be, considering things that people definitely go through nowadays. Um, but a lot of people have learned, I guess, better outlets, better ways of coping nowadays, also, because you don't hear about serial killers as much as you used to, even though I'm sure there's some out there that we don't know about yet. But definitely coping mechanisms and the ability to the way the mental health issue has changed over the years to where people don't have to keep everything inside. It's
Right.
more open. You can talk about your issues now and not have that stigma of, oh, she's crazy, or oh, he's weak. You don't have that so much. So,
Stephen, I had to be nice on this show, but I hope you're reading my thought right now, sir. That's all I'm saying.
I'll just let you know, Chrissy, I have the shovel. Okay, we'll leave it at that.
Okay.
I got the bag of lies.
Jason's got me covered too.
There you go. I mean, you're 50% covered. You just gotta, do the deed.
Well, yeah, Eric, and that's the way it was where I volunteered at too, because it's actually a truly haunted location. So, and they do the haunted house to help restore the building. So, and that's why I only volunteer at it, because it's truly haunted, and they need the money to help restore it and take care of the historic building. But yeah, the people aren't supposed to touch us. They're not supposed to hit us. And I get that if you're freaked out in the moment, your arms flaring or something, okay. But to grab and to physically hit, no, you're in the wrong place. That's not cool. If you don't want to be scared, then don't go to a haunted house. Yeah,
Well,
it's
there
sad.
are so many ways nowadays, though. I mean, if you've got a cell phone, you can reach out. You can text. You can call. They do have those sites now where you don't have to physically go into a place. If people don't know about it,
Telemedicine.
they do have those. Exactly. Not only that, they have the 1-800. I can't remember the number, but it can be Googled. You don't have to, give your identity. You can text and talk with a professional. You can talk with them over the phone. I mean, there is a lot of options nowadays, for abuse victims, for any kind of abuse, domestic violence, sexual assault. I mean, there is all kinds of help nowadays. And if they don't know, guys, you can text. Like I said, just Google. You can text to talk with a professional, and you can call and talk with a professional if you do need something like that.
Well, there's also a crisis text line too, which is 741-741. You text that and you can talk to anybody that will answer on the other end of depression, anxiety, suicide, school bullying, whatever the problem is. You text that and somebody will text you back immediately. So 741-741, crisis text line.
So I guess men are more evil serial killers than women, right?
I wouldn't say that, Jackie. If we compare, which we kind of derailed and we went off on all kinds of killers and thoughts and theories. And
It was mostly of men. Now, if you listen, it was mostly y'all talking all about how they
but
killed.
you know
how
why?
bad.
Do you know why? Because even though we all three of us learned last week and talked about this, there are more women serial killers than men. But who talks about the serial killers? What stories come out? The men, not the women. And is that because it's taboo, or I don't know. They're just afraid more women are going to go crazy and kill a whole bunch more people. I don't know.
Be the case.
I'm just saying that I
Or is
can't.
it that the men are just more brutal in what they do?
So it's bigger news.
Yeah, I think they're more
That
brutal.
that could be. That could be. We'll have to visit that topic maybe next
It's
week.
just like pit
Yes,
bulls.
remember
They
that.
don't attack. They're not the most attacking dog, but they cause more damage than anybody else.
Yeah, that's true.
So they're considered the.
Most dangerous. All right.
It's all about the
Yep.
rating.
Yep.
It's the end of our show, and I want to thank everybody for coming in and watching Hey Boo. And we will see you next week. And y'all have a great week. Bye,
Bye,
everybody.
y'all.
Bye.